John Boy gets conked on the head just in time for Thanksgiving, the return of his childhood sweetheart, and a college scholarship exam. Plus, a Thanksgiving pageant, Thanksgiving dinner, and a little moonshining. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to another Battle of the Network shows. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rick.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners, and thanks for supporting the show. We're thankful for you.
Hope you're enjoying some turkey or some tofurkey, some turducken, some tofurducken. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
3 types of tofu?
Something.
Like one tofu stuffed inside another tofu?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fried turkey.
Mashed potatoes.
Yeah, all the trimmings.
Yeah. Relish. Sausage.
Cranberry sauce.
Canned cranberries.
Yeah, I don't like hardly any of this, as you know.
I know you're not a Thanksgiving
I'm not
person.
a big Thanksgiving fan, so I'm content to have a feast of classic television on Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
With maybe a TV dinner. But not turkey.
Not turkey.
I would rather have Salisbury steak than TV dinner turkey.
Excuse me, I need to go throw up.
Yes, I apologize. No, I don't. I like turkey.
Yeah.
A well-cooked turkey can be very delicious. But, like, the traditional Thanksgiving sides, they're not for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather have, like, nachos or something I actually like. When it's up to me, I'll just get something I like and have that.
Nachos, in a way, might be more authentic.
Yes.
The nacho part, because they're made out of corn.
Yes. Or as
maize.
The Native Americans call it, maize.
All right. I stepped on your joke there.
That's quite all right. It's no joke, Mike, the great heritage of our country.
Yes. So hopefully you're taking a little time out of your Thanksgiving day. Maybe you've watched the parade, things are cooking, and you're listening to us.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not right after you ate the turkey, because we don't want you to fall asleep.
Yeah, you might need some time to regenerate yourselves.
Before the football, if you're into the football.
Or even during the football. Maybe you're into the football, but you're not into the announcers.
Hey, yeah.
That's quite possible.
That would be a good time-saving thing. If you can keep enough attention to both things.
Yes.
I don't watch a lot of footballs, and I don't have a good sense of following everything that's going on in football. So I could probably do that. I think someone maybe who's more intensely into it.
Well,
seeing who's blocking for who and all that.
Football right now is like the NBA, kind of. It's high scoring. You don't really need to watch until the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Whoever has the ball, so you can just keep us on, give us your attention, and we can provide an alternate soundtrack.
Yeah. Or you're driving home from some vacation spot or family visit. Anyway, because it's Thanksgiving, we decided to do this show anyway. We're going to talk about really the most appropriate show to talk about on Thanksgiving, other than the Peanuts Thanksgiving special, the Waltons.
Yeah, a great show that's about family, traditions, Americana. So I think it's a good way to celebrate Thanksgiving.
And this is I guess originally aired as a 2-part Thanksgiving episode, or maybe it aired as a movie. I don't know. It's put together as one.
Yes, it did air that way.
Oh, okay.
As a 2-hour block.
Okay. And this one aired in 1973?
Correct.
Season 2. This would have aired on my first Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Or around my first Thanksgiving.
Do you remember watching this one?
No.
Oh.
It might have been on, but I was eating some pureed strained turkey.
Strained carrots.
Yeah. Already developing my distaste for strained anything.
This episode is called The Thanksgiving Story. It aired November 15th.
Oh, a little pre.
So a little bit early, but maybe on the actual Thanksgiving they might have had other type of special programming.
This was a Thursday show at the time. So.
Yeah, and the Waltons is a good way to celebrate Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah.
On this night, to give some context, so it aired from 8 to 10. On ABC was the detective show Toma, didn't last very long, and Kung Fu.
Oh.
On NBC, The Flip Wilson Show.
Yeah.
And Ironside.
Interesting.
So 1973, that those shows are pretty much not kind of 1973 shows, but The Waltons had a long run though, and actually went to 1981.
Yeah. Now, since you bring up what it was against, in doing some research, the first season it was up against the Flip Wilson Show and the Mod Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And the Flip Wilson Show was like the #1 show in the country, right?
Yeah, Flip Wilson was huge.
And the Waltons looked like it was in trouble, and CBS put a one-page ad in. I read different places, maybe newspapers and Life magazine, or with critics' quotes and saying "Save the Waltons," and somehow this ad actually worked.
Yeah.
Back when print ads actually could accomplish something.
Right.
And people started watching it.
Yeah, I think they kind of put the Waltons up against Flip Wilson as kind of like, well, we don't want to burn a better show or a show with more potential against Flip Wilson, but the Waltons went up winning and essentially beat Flip Wilson and forced it off the air.
Yeah.
You could argue. So.
Wow.
The Waltons beat Flip Wilson.
Yeah.
I think the Mod Squad was just
near the end.
That was a different story. Yeah. It was no Flip Wilson.
But also, the Waltons came on the air like a year or two after the which we mentioned in the Hee Haw episode, the Rural Purge.
Yeah, this is interesting that so soon after that, CBS is putting a blatantly rural show back on the air. I don't quite get that. It seems to contradict that existing narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt that they did get rid of shows that could have stayed on the air another year or two, but it doesn't really explain why they put the Waltons on. Maybe it was to make amends for that.
Right.
Maybe they didn't have high hopes for it and just thought, well, we'll give it a shot, and maybe this will be the show that proves that we're not going to get good numbers with this. But
then that ad seems to contradict that.
Yeah.
They had some confidence in it.
Yeah, they spent money on it.
Yeah. Before the series, there was a TV movie that had many, not all the same actors.
Yeah.
Called The Homecoming, and I guess that's what inspired the series to happen. And then the parents I know were different in that, and I think the grandfather. But
yeah, and I guess there was the movie Spencer's Mountain.
Right, and so these are all based on novels by Earl Hamner Jr., who created the TV series and I guess wrote a lot of it. Who was a TV and movie writer, but did fictionalized versions of his childhood growing up in Schuyler, Virginia. By the way, there's a Waltons Museum.
Oh, really?
We're ever interested in taking a little
Take
BOTNS field trip.
The show on the road?
Yeah. Visit the Waltons Museum.
Not a bad idea.
A couple hours away near Charlottesville. But he grew up in the Depression in a small town in Virginia with a big family, I guess.
Yeah.
So, right, it was the characters were originally called the Spencers, and there was some copyright thing there. And I guess copyright issues with the movie, too. Even though it's based on his work.
Right.
I saw something about Warner Brothers getting syndication rights from Lorimar to avoid, that was how Lorimar avoided getting sued.
Yeah, it's weird.
And then Warner Brothers bought Lorimar.
Yeah, that's what kind of makes things weird for me is that
Right.
Warner Brothers bought Lorimar anyway years later. So
yeah. Now I was thinking about I realized this show's a lot like another Lorimar show with a giant family.
Oh yes.
And I guess 8 is Enough was an attempt to recapture the magic. And then there was another show. Do you know about the show in between, or that Earl Hamner?
The Apple's Way or something.
Yeah.
I know I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Right. Which was a similar idea. Had Christy McNichol and Vince Van Patten. I almost said Vince McMahon.
That would be a great show.
But that was more of a rural kind of setting. But then that still, Lorimar clearly was interested in this formula of a big family.
Yeah. Well, to me, it looks like, in retrospect, the Waltons was not a mega hit. It was at first, and then it was a solid performer.
Yeah.
And it was on the air 9 seasons, which isn't amazing. But to me, I think maybe the influence was not so much in rural shows, but in family shows. And we've talked about before, something like the family drama, like the show Family.
Right.
You had these things with big casts and kind of these, different stories with different family members, mixture of comedy and drama. And maybe that was the biggest legacy of the Waltons. And what you just said about 8 is Enough would kind of support that, where, clearly Sacramento is not the rural area, but
no.
I can see I hadn't thought of that, but I can see that connection.
And also, I would say the Waltons is sort of like if they're the Venn diagram between Little House on the Prairie and 8 is Enough.
Yeah.
The Waltons is in the middle of that, right?
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very well done.
It's it's a period piece, the rural setting, but it doesn't seem like the drama is necessarily as heavy a maybe sometimes, but
His Little House.
Right.
I don't think the consequences are the same as they are on Little House, where
there's not as
bad
much
stuff happens
disease.
and it stays happened.
Yeah. Or they're they're in a world that's in. I mean, it's during the Depression and later World War II, but on the other hand, they have cars and medicine.
Well, let's talk about that. So, it's set in Depression, Virginia, which, again, for those of you that aren't familiar, Virginia is a big state, and there's Northern Virginia, and then the rest of Virginia is entirely different.
Right.
So it really is a different world even to this day.
Yeah.
So the Waltons is set during the Depression, but to me, like the family on the Ingalls family on Little House, they had a lot harder life than the Waltons.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen a lot of the Waltons. This is one of the shows that, again, I was kind of aware of, but really have hardly watched at all. I just kind of know of it. But it strikes me that, you don't see, it's more homespun, and there's references to the Depression, but it's not like they're living in squalor.
No.
To me, life in the prairie was a lot more difficult, and I think every episode you seemed like you were conscious of them struggling, and Michael Pa's businesses were always struggling.
Right.
He was always having something fail, or pestilence killing off something.
Yeah, tornadoes.
Yeah. Any business he had would be destined for failure. So the Waltons, in this episode, the Depression is a backdrop. It's mentioned several times, but it didn't seem like really part of their day-to-day life.
Yeah. I think they're...
maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but
they're sort of self-sufficient.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They do have this big house, but I'm guessing, they built it themselves. And they're... Of course, the Ingalls did some of that, too.
They're a huge family.
Yeah.
But they're also planning for a big Thanksgiving dinner, and there's no worries about providing for everybody.
Right. Well, yeah, because they're... and again, some of that's the self-sufficient stuff, like, the grandpa's smoking hams, but as he's carrying them out to the smokehouse, he's saying the names of the pigs they used to be. Mm-hmm. And they, try to get shoot a wild turkey.
Yeah, and traditionally he does that every year.
Yes.
That's how he provides for them.
And they barter for things, and it's not. But they do seem to have this lumber business of some kind, and I think maybe some of the others living off the land, they probably sell some of that stuff or trade some of that stuff. Or, there's walnuts mentioned, and I don't know if the canning going on has to do and sausage. They're making sausage at the beginning. I don't know if that was for Thanksgiving or for feeding them, and some of the kids are getting jobs, but it doesn't seem they're not. They probably didn't have money in the stock market.
Yeah. Well,
I bet there are episodes though where like itinerant people come around or things like that.
They're talking about the oldest is going off to college, and he's dependent on a scholarship.
Yeah.
So it's there, but it's still a possibility for him. It's not like a pipe dream or anything.
Right.
So maybe it's kind of like I tend to think of the Depression as slums in big cities or the Dust Bowl.
Right.
And this is kind of like neither of those things.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a backdrop, but their life is not, at least in this episode, it didn't seem as hard. Like I think a lot of the drama on the Waltons was based on more family. Like it wasn't a show about being poor so much as it was a show about being a big family and the things that happen to big families in that setting.
I think that's probably fair. I'm just going to read off the character names so we know who we're talking about, because it's a lot of people.
Good, because I keep getting the characters mixed up.
Yes. So now there's John. That's the dad.
Yes.
Played by Ralph Waite.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely my favorite actor or character on the show, I think.
Okay.
Olivia, the mother, played by Michael Lerner. Grandpa, I don't remember that actor's name.
Will Geer.
Thank you. He's pretty awesome, too.
Yes, he was blacklisted for a while in the 50s, too. Man. He did not name names, so there's a gap in his career.
Yeah. About
5 years, where I think it was because he was on the blacklist.
Okay. He's memorable and has great energy to him. And Grandma, again, I'm forgetting the actress's name, but she won like 3 Emmys.
Yes, Ellen Corby.
And then there's John Boy, the oldest, who played by Richard Thomas, and he's actually in terms of the credits, the star.
Yeah.
Like everyone else is co-starring with him.
Yeah, and his voiceover, Earl Hamner narrates the show as grown-up John Boy in the future.
Yeah, like the books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of reinforcing that the series is told from his point of view, more or less.
Yeah, and then there are the other kids. I'm hoping it seems like this website is listing them in their age order. There's Jason, Mary Ellen, Aaron, Ben, Jim Bob, Elizabeth, Alfonso, Almanzo, Tito,
Wait a minute. You lost me there.
Jermaine. Sorry, yeah, it ends with Elizabeth. Okay. So I believe there are as many kids here as Ada's not.
Okay.
John Boy, Jason, Mary Ellen, Aaron, Ben, Jim Bob, Elizabeth. Oh, no, there are only 6 kids.
Oh, okay, so they had it easy.
Yeah.
But they had the 2 grandparents, so...
They do have the 2 grandparents.
It kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, although they're hardworking grandparents, so...
Yeah, they are.
In this episode, obviously John Boy's, the main character. And Jason and Ben and Mary Ellen have a little bit to do, and none of the rest of the kids really do much.
Yeah, I think that's why I was having trouble distinguishing.
Yeah. And they're, redheads and all sorts of things. And I didn't even see Jim Bob for a while. I was, where's Jim Bob? Because you can't forget a name like Jim Bob.
No.
And it's just, this is such an old episode that he's like a little kid.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is, okay.
Yeah.
You said you didn't really watch this growing up or anything.
Correct.
I definitely did. It's another one of those things where the dates, I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, Richard Thomas left, in the 5th season, or after the 5th season.
Wow.
I think. And yet I knew, I was only 5 or 6 when that happened, but I remember that happening. And I remember being invested in that character in a way. And, and then in later seasons, the John Boy character comes back and it's a different actor. And I remember that being a thing. Well, this isn't John Boy.
Yeah.
John Boy's the guy in Battle Beyond the Stars. So I wonder if it was also already in syndication by then.
It could be.
And combination. But it definitely seems like a show that, my parents would have liked. Mm-hmm. So, it was probably just on, and, in that time, and you're a certain age, you're seeing whatever's on.
Just absorbing it.
Yeah. First of all, it's a period piece, but it's really only 40 years in the past.
Yeah. In
terms of when it was airing and when it's set.
Right.
So that would be like a show set in the 70s. Yeah. Late 70s now.
Yeah.
It still would be a different time, but a time that people watching it would have remembered a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents are a little older, but my dad grew up during the Depression, and my mom kind of grew up at the tail end and during World War II, and after in the 50s. But I assume it probably struck a chord with them because of that, and the family part. And my mom's parents were sort of from the far, Iowa and Wyoming, and she wasn't. But I think that those kind of values might have been in her family.
Well, it's interesting too because now that I think about it, nostalgia was big in the 70s, but of course the one we think about is the big 50s craze. And in general, the 1930s maybe the least nostalgic for decade in pop culture. When I think about it. Yeah. You've got the Grapes of Wrath and which is which was a contemporary novel, but there's not a big rush to set things in the Depression, is there?
No, and I think the spirit of that would be times are tough, but we got through it. Mm-hmm. But you don't necessarily want to see those tough times.
I think Archie and Edith maybe sing about those times a little bit at the beginning of All in the Family. But other than that, so that's kind of another unique thing about this show. It's not as far back as you say. It's not like a Western period piece or something even like Little House on the Prairie. But it's recent enough that people would have memories of it. But it's not so recent as that 1950s nostalgia that gave us American Graffiti and Happy Days and all that in the 70s. So
and I wonder in terms of where it Waltons fit in the culture. We'll get into the episode soon, and I feel like it's not it's easy to look at the Waltons and say, oh, it's just, kind of in a negative it's just sort of cheesy or a little bit corny, sentimental, corny. Yeah. Which I don't, based on this episode and part of another one I watched, I don't have that opinion of it, really. Or that it's, little c conservative, just by being about a family who goes to church. And, but, and in being in the early 70s, it would have been into the Vietnam War and getting into Watergate and, the post-60s stuff. And you could see it as being a reactionary thing, back to the more wholesome times and stuff. But I think there's also a social relevance angle where they were talking about things, set in that period, but maybe you could relate to now. I think being charitable even when you don't have money and racial equality and things like that, I think probably come up in the show, which don't strike me as conservative, again, more not politically conservative or liberal. Not worrying about that. Well, it's not, there's not skin and all that. Right. But it's not hiding from human behavior either. No. There's definitely a lot of, in this episode, some implied references to and well, the fact that there's 6 kids, but to sexuality and the people who have sex, and it's not
Right.
You know,
But it's a very chaste way.
Yeah.
Like, it's the kind of show, like, and as a matter of fact, it might still be, there's Inspiration Network,
yeah,
which the name right there is telling, but
right,
when they started moving away from purely religious programming into, family-friendly programming, I think they built their schedule around the Waltons.
yeah,
Because there's nothing objectionable in it as far as some of the things you say. But yet,
Right.
As you say, it's not like a politically, overtly right-wing show.
no,
And actually, it's got a blacklisted
yeah,
actor and Ralph Waite, who wound up being a Democratic
that's right,
politician and was an activist.
yeah.
So,
No, I think it's actually probably like subtly, or it's like Lou Grant, and we've talked about that humanist idea.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
not any kind of political idea, but probably some of the stuff. It might be true to Earl Hamner's family that maybe they were tolerant and stuff, but I know there's some African American characters recurring characters and things who get treated like people and not
Right.
like a stereotype of rural Virginia might think they got treated.
Right. Yeah, and the show was more critically acclaimed than you might think, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it won a Peabody Award.
Yeah, a lot of Emmys.
It won the Best Drama Emmy
Yeah.
early on, so it was a critical favorite in some respects as well as a commercial success. And actually, this episode, the director was nominated for the Emmys that year for this episode,
Wow.
and the writer, Joanne Lee, I believe, won for Best Screenplay for this episode.
Hey,
So
there you go.
there you have it. So the Waltons won Emmys as well as won viewers, so
Yeah.
good for that.
Now, I have seen on some of these Waltons-related websites, it does seem like the general opinion of the later years is not all that positive. Like a lot of, I mean, both of the grandparent actors died, and
Yeah.
Michael Learned kind of
Oh.
left and came back, and
Oh, wow. I didn't.
of course John Boy was gone, and like any of these shows with kids, the kids get older and start being the adults on the show, and is that as interesting? And
Yeah.
I don't know. None of these, other than Richard Thomas, who of course had left, but none of the other kid actors strike me as they're going to live up to those 4 adult actors, or
Right.
Richard Thomas,
Right.
who's of course was in his 20s, but it's a fantastic actor,
Yeah. 9 seasons is a long time for anything.
And I know some of the like reunion movies like took place in the 60s.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That seems very
There's
jarring.
one where they're reacting to Kennedy dying.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think one is John Boy reporting on the moon landing.
Wow.
Yeah, from the moon.
Yeah.
They really, they really push the envelope.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about a gimmick.
I mean, he is a go-getter.
Yeah.
Oh, I just hitched a ride. Somebody needed to be there.
Well, he had the gumption to hitch a ride, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe it's allaboutthewaltons.com.
Yes,
was the website
that's
I was
what
looking
I'm. Yeah, I have that open right now.
Looked like an excellent website, and they had a picture of a magazine cover. Do you see that? I think it was I don't know if it was Life magazine or if it was the actual Saturday Evening Post.
Oh,
But it had the cast of the Waltons in that classic Norman Rockwell, like Four Freedoms painting pose.
Yeah.
And kind of making a parallel to that time, and kind
Right.
of like, again, kind of going to the nostalgia, but really that was, I think, from the peak of the show was real early, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a national phenomenon
Right.
and like a sensation there. And stayed, but yeah, it seems like it probably hung on a little bit too long. I didn't know about all those.
Yeah.
I knew John Boy had left, but
It was in the pop culture too. At least some of it. Like it didn't happen really. This sort of vaguely happened in this episode, but not. A lot of episodes would end with everyone in the house saying goodnight to each other, and
yes.
I know that was a joke you would hear a lot.
That was my personal connection to the Waltons, as we did that in my family.
Yeah.
And I think, like on family vacations especially, or something like
Yeah.
that, just be like, good night, John Boy.
Right. Yeah.
That was the joke. We definitely did that. So
Yeah.
that was probably what I knew about the Waltons, except for maybe reading them in Mad Magazine and
Yeah.
just hearing a parody of them in Mad Magazine and hearing about them other places. But
And now I saw that either in that Homecoming movie or Spencer's Mountain, the John Boy character was named Clayboy,
Clayboy.
which made me laugh for some reason.
Clayboy.
Yeah.
I don't quite get that.
Well, his name's Clay. It's just the same. His name is Clay.
It didn't quite sound right.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, so what's the deal with John Boy? Is it to distinguish him from John Sr.?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So if the dad's name was Clay.
Yeah, I think that was
Oh,
probably
okay.
the dad's name was Clay. And
I see.
Clayboy.
Well, somebody must have thought it was...
Earl Hamner, who, by the way, also created Falcon Crest.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think they were part of the same universe?
It could be. I don't know.
Possibly.
I don't know if Falcon Crest was part of the CBS soap opera universe with Dallas and Knots Landing.
I don't... Well...
They were all Lorimar shows, right?
Yeah.
It could have been.
Okay. Let's
say that it is. We know they're all part of the Tommy Westphall universe, so
of course,
it doesn't matter.
And now they're all part of the Battle of the Network shows universe.
That's
most importantly.
Yes. So now there's not a lot of. I mean, it's Thanksgiving and there's a lot of activity, but I wouldn't say this is a dense episode necessarily.
No, I mean
there's one big
several
story.
storylines, but the others are kind of filler. There's the lighter stories and there's the big story carrying us through most of the 2 episodes.
Right. So some of the lighter ones. There's Jason, so the second oldest son at least.
Yes.
He gets a job with these 2 spinster sisters who make something they call the recipe, which is a moonshine of some kind.
Yeah.
From what I read, they don't understand. They think it's medicinal.
Okay.
His dad knows he got the job. The mom does. Olivia doesn't.
Yeah, and
then it could be a source of tension.
he doesn't go out of his way to inform her of that.
No, and John doesn't either. He's looking for a way to tell her.
Yeah.
But he knows it's going to upset her.
Right. But he wants to give his son the opportunity, and he doesn't really think it's a big deal either.
Right, and all he's doing is he's not drinking this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not forcing it down little kids' throats or something.
No. Now they're making a special blend to send to President and First Lady Roosevelt.
Yeah, very charitable of them.
To help them.
Yeah.
And it is
recognition of all they're doing to lead them out of the Depression.
And this is still Prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
And, And that actually, I think, is the other major story, because it does lead to some interesting scenes. And some stuff about the family that I've found, again, more interesting than the Reputation might say. And then there's the Mary Ellen wants to be Pocahontas in the pageant.
Yeah, this story seemed to be the least of the stories to me.
Yeah, and there's some snooty Nellie Olson
right.
girl, who has a special costume. I guess maybe their family's.
I guess it was
rich or something.
Store-bought costume.
Yeah, but she doesn't get. Mary Ellen gets the role. That's fine. That's about it. And then the rest of her job is to just sass her brothers.
Yeah.
And then Ben, the next oldest son, he wants to be the one to shoot the turkey.
Yeah.
And so Grandpa lets him do that, but it's more like teaching him a lesson, I think.
Isn't that how serial killers start, with by being bloodthirsty and wanting to maim and kill animals?
Right.
Or is this something different?
This is something different.
Okay.
He wants to feel, he wants to contribute to all the Thanksgiving.
Yeah, everybody else has something to do.
Yeah. He's like the middle kid.
Yeah.
Or the closest you can get to a middle in this many kids.
Right.
Or an even number of kids. But,
yeah. Right. He's not the exact middle.
No. Those are fairly small stories. And the big story is about John Boy. And there are actually 2 things going on. Well, 3 things. First of all, his I guess, childhood sweetheart, or Jenny, is coming back to town. And she and her
stepmother.
Okay. I didn't follow that religion. Have been gone somewhere, and they come back to their house for Thanksgiving. And then he's been accepted at college. His college I think it's supposed to be in Richmond. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned this, he needs a scholarship to go, and there's like an exam for that. Mm-hmm. So he's got to study for that exam and take that exam. Before any of that even happens, he's helping his dad and grandpa cut some lumber, and he makes a suggestion of, like, the boards are thin enough, why don't we cut 2 at a time? Mm-hmm. Speed things up.
Do it in half the time.
Yep. And the belt, they definitely edit this together with some tension. Mm. They kept showing this belt on whatever belt hooks it goes around, and it's sliding, and I kept going, uh-oh, because I knew, he's going to get hit in the head with something.
Right.
Finally, the belt snaps, and it hits him in the head, and he falls back and hits another part of his head. And
I know that you're always a big fan of belt maintenance, Mike. And
I am a fan of belt maintenance.
In this case, they did not practice that, I think it's fair to say.
No, and, leads to some regret.
It's a pretty dramatic moment there when he gets
some
conked.
Good blood on his head. And,
yeah.
He does mention he's been hit on the head before.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
And I told you before we started recording that when the other John Boy shows up, he had been wounded in World War II and has amnesia for a while. Which already says maybe the show's been going on a little too long. If using amnesia.
Yeah. Yeah. But they've
car amnesia, sure.
Yeah.
That's
fine,
right.
But,
yeah.
They've set the They've set the stage here, though. They're laying the groundwork right now.
Yeah.
With this severe head trauma.
Yes.
To give John Boy a history of mental issues. And
right.
memory problems.
Yeah. So he seems like he's fine, but then through the course of the events, he keeps having these moments, these little spells of like blurry vision and dizziness.
And he keeps it to himself. He doesn't want to tell anybody else.
Other than his journal.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Not diary. Journal.
Yes, because his journal is the one sympathetic ear that can give him good advice and listen to him without sassing him.
That's right.
That'd be funny if he had like a moment where he was having delusions and actually the journal was talking back to him.
Yes, that would be, that would have been a way to go.
Yeah. A different direction maybe to dramatize his issues.
Don't trust them, John Boy.
Yeah.
They'll judge you for your head injury.
Grandpa keeps an axe in the shed, John Boy. You know what to do with that, don't you, John Boy?
Chop wood. Well, that's one thing you could do with it.
You know, one thing I do like about that is, well, not about that. I like everything about that. Yeah. But one thing I like about this sequence is, and it's funny because I was kind of thinking this, like, one good thing about these rural shows or even like Little Houses, they show something you don't see a lot on TV is the value of physical labor. Mm-hmm. You know, and like kind of showing people actually doing things and doing work and having value in work. And this kind, like John Boy, I don't think he literally rolls up his sleeves, but he goes out and helps and he says, hey, you know, what can I do to help? And just the three of them all working together and one makes a suggestion and they're doing it. And this is like how they make their living. And it's sort of interesting. You don't see that in a lot of shows. And of course, you know, John Boy winds up getting concussed as a result of this. But so there's some negative value to physical labor.
And before that, he was like so excited about Jenny coming and the scholarship thing and stuff that he was interrupting other people's work.
That's true, yes.
He was trying to get the grandma she was making relish.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know if that, again, was that for Thanksgiving or was that, you know, to sell at market? Or, you know, and everyone in the family's tasting it. And
making comments on it.
Someone says not enough dill. He says too much dill.
Yeah.
But he wants her to just stop and give him a haircut.
Right.
And later he's driving off and say, Mom, can you iron my blue shirt?
Yeah. He wants everything to be just so when Jenny arrives.
Yeah. So he values the men's work maybe a little more.
Yeah, that's true. He does tend to diminish the roles that the others have.
It seems like
that's a fair point.
Yeah. But he's just so excited.
He is. He's very enthusiastic and can't wait.
That's one thing that struck me is like this is a very energetic show. Like I felt like he's energetic, but the grandpa and you know Ralph Waits has all this kind of. It's not like a boring show. It like moves and I guess 8 is Enough has that too. Like a lot of times, like when a lot of the family's there's a certain chaotic feel.
It feels lived in. It feels busy.
Yeah, which is good. It worked here. Mm-hmm. All those adult actors, especially, are really good actors.
Right.
In playing different tones, because there are some serious moments, but you know they also there's humor too.
Yeah.
I mean he's a source of some of that humor by just being so goofy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this head injury might be a problem. Now I know Thanksgiving wasn't always a Thursday thing, so I don't know exactly the whole time frame.
Yeah.
It seems like a couple weeks go by. Like he finds this out, and then his scholarship test is like on a Friday.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving is somewhere after that.
Right.
So it does, as you know, I always appreciate when time actually passes on.
Yeah.
In a show or a movie.
Yes, you do.
Rather than it being one day.
Yeah.
But, Jenny, he goes and the same day he gets whacked in the head.
Right.
Bandage on his head. He goes to Jenny's house to kind of clean it up before she gets there.
Spruce it up a little bit, make sure the fireplace is working.
Yeah, but they show up a day early, and surprise him, and they're surprised because there's somebody in their fire with his head in their fireplace.
Right.
And he turns around and he's covered in soot. Then she's making fun of him at their kitchen table later.
Yeah, he's quite embarrassed by it.
Yeah, and the little kids, did you kiss yet?
Yeah.
He's embarrassed by that too.
He is.
Yeah, but they do.
Yeah,
later.
They totally do.
Take a walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not embarrassed not to do it.
No, No.
But he doesn't want the
Talk
kids
about
talking
it.
about it.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. But they seem to like her, and everything's good, except for that Mary Ellen was writing her letters and snitched on John Boy having a different girlfriend while she was gone.
Yeah. And he was actually enough of a girlfriend for him to be jealous about. So Jenny's kind of asking him some questions and sort of interrogating him a little bit about that. And John Boy gets exasperated.
Yeah. And he gets philosophical. And,
he doesn't really have a good answer. He's like, well, you were gone for, a year?
Yeah.
So he's got a point there.
Right, yeah. He didn't, I don't think he knew maybe if she was coming back even.
Yeah. He's no cad.
He's no cad, no.
But, what can you really say in that situation?
Yeah.
He's just trying to, he doesn't want to talk about it really, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Yes.
Let's start kissing.
Yeah.
You won't worry about this anymore.
Right. And it seems to go away a little bit, but there is like a worry that he's just going to run off and get married. And,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's ruin the college opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, the parents are talking about that. And, Olivia is particularly concerned. And I guess the grandmother, too, right? Brings that up.
I think
she's kind of assumes that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, and on the one hand, it's not totally unreasonable. I think that's another thing that I like about this is it seems like they're clearly proud of him and they realize that he's intelligent.
Yeah.
So like again, the stereotype might be that he's got to stay here and help the family business, but they're willing to support the fact that he's going to college to be a writer.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of impressive that they support him fully in that.
Yeah, and later, like the dad says, "I've wanted this for you longer than you have."
Right. There could be real economic consequences. Of course, it helps that he's got like 5 other kids that can help out with the lumber, but
right, yeah,
but still,
right. Consequences besides paying for it. They do have livestock. We've mentioned that, but they don't really have a farm.
Yeah, no. It seems like they do a little small farming, but
right,
nothing on a large scale.
Yeah, and there are more kids, so it's not like Luke Skywalker running off.
Yeah, but I mean, being a writer, having aspirations to be a writer, that's not a very practical thing in the Depression.
What?
I mean.
Oh, in the Depression. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Depression.
Now it's fine.
Now it's totally legit.
Yeah, right. And he seems to want to be a journalist, but I know he becomes or not a journalist, a novelist, but he does become a journalist.
Yeah.
Which is slightly more practical.
Yeah, of course.
Although I believe he starts his own newspaper. Gets some sort of small printing press and starts his own paper, regional paper.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
There's value in that.
Sure.
And then eventually he sells out and...
Yep. It's just another Gannett
just
paper.
Runs wire service and lays off the whole staff.
Gossip.
Yeah. Hopefully he at least had a good comic section.
He drew them all himself.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That is definitely something.
Later he gave Jim Bob a comic.
Oh, that's good. He did like knockoff versions of everything.
Right.
Like he had a knockoff Lil Abner and knockoff Blondie.
Yes.
Why not?
So I'm trying to think what a knockoff Blondie. It's another hair color, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Dagwood's more into this, like elaborate soups.
Yeah. You'd be like that. My red-haired gal.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah.
She's got red hair.
Yeah. The Mary Worth knockoff, like, lets people do whatever they want.
Yeah. Doesn't really care. I can't be bothered. She gives everybody the Steve Ditko pose.
Right.
When they come to her with their problems. Puts her hand up like, talk to the hand. I can't be bothered.
I really want to see, like, 10 years worth of that.
Yeah.
The second or the third panel is the same every time.
Yeah. Well, people like consistency in the comics.
Yeah.
They like the familiar. And John Boy certainly provided that.
Yes.
That was his real legacy. He totally ignored like all the major events of the 40s and 50s. After the war,
After the war, yeah.
After the war, the 1950s was a time of prosperity. He could afford to, let the news be news, and he could focus on making his knockoff funnies, his real passion. He can indulge his artistic side there too, a little bit, his creative side that he abandoned when he stopped being a novelist.
The Carnival of the family.
Yeah, the Carnival. Yes, a square panel every day,
right.
with the foibles and incidents that happen in everyday family life.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hey, back to the...
I'm starting to wonder if maybe we had a head injury at some point.
Yeah.
Have we been cutting lumber recently?
I don't remember.
No, I don't recall either. Matter of fact, I don't recall anything that happened before this morning. So
No.
we may need to look into that later.
Yeah. Back in the show, we keep seeing signs of him. The injury affecting him. He has like a minor car wreck.
Yeah, it happens while he's driving.
He sort of, goes to visit the preacher man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Played by
one of our favorites,
Mr. John Ritter.
The great John Ritter, yes.
Yeah, who was in 19 episodes.
Wow, yeah.
Over a number of years.
Regular role, huh?
Yeah, and I think maybe his character is married to or dating the teacher.
Okay.
I don't know, they're together later. Yeah, and he has like a fainting spell and actually does sort of a John Ritter type, like a little, graceful fall.
Yeah.
And but he keeps just not telling anybody.
I guess at some point he kind of realized that he needs to have it looked at, but he wants to focus on passing the test first.
Yes.
In retrospect, not the best strategy.
No.
But in his mind, in his addled mind, which has been damaged,
yes,
he believes that he needs to focus, pass this test, and then have the head injury that's affecting his mental capacities looked at.
Right.
See, this is why
because once you pass the test, it doesn't matter if you had a head injury.
This is why people can't judge their own. Why they don't let quarterbacks come back in the game
when
they're suspected of having a concussion, because their judgment may be impaired by having a head injury.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, to us, it makes sense.
Yes.
I don't know if that stands for anything.
Right. So he does go take this test, and that's where it kind of all falls apart.
Yeah.
They're different little tests. They get the little test, and they get the little blue books.
They get the Sudoku.
Right. Crossword puzzle.
Right.
Jumble. That's when the jumble, he can't handle that.
Tries him up the wall, yeah.
In his paper, the jumble is called the jumble.
Yeah. Right.
You have to rearrange words that are clear into nonsense that solves a puzzle. And then he finishes one, and then they get the next one, and he just like freaks out. He can't see it.
Yeah, it's really blurry.
And he's like, I can't see it. I can't. And he kind of stumbles out and ends up being taken to the hospital.
Yeah, and he says he can't drive. I mean, he's really kind of facing the music here.
Yeah. The hospital, based on the sign, is at UVA, which would be in Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, but fictional geography often doesn't make sense.
As you've reported
I'm obsessed with.
On this this very podcast before, yes.
Yeah. And they find out he probably has a blood clot in his brain. And they're going to have to do some surgery.
Yeah, it's serious.
It is serious. And, he could die. He could be permanently blinded or paralyzed. Mm-hmm. So they're worried. And now maybe this is a good time to go back to the other storylines.
Okay.
So the Jason one, which I said, again, I found pretty interesting. I mean, those characters are kind of amusing.
The spinster ladies.
Yes, the Baldwin sisters.
Yes, they're kind of played for laughs, but
yeah,
it leads to something relatively serious.
That he does such good work and reminds them of their father so much, who never had a male heir, that they quite seriously decide they want to adopt him.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't told his mom, and they show up at the house.
Yeah, they want to have a meeting.
Right.
And,
she's not happy about it.
It's funny, because they bring up the adoption before it comes out that...
Right.
Like, she doesn't even know that he's working until after they bring up the fact that...
Yeah.
So it must have seemed totally random.
Yeah.
That they wanted to adopt him.
Right, yeah.
Because she didn't even know he was working for them for the last however many days.
And, like, the dad, it's awkward, but he also is, like, thinks it's hysterical.
Yes, he's bemused by it, but...
And she, like, gets up and, like, goes to the Bible and does something, and then she's angry about it, but she invites them to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So John and Olivia have this argument about it. And that's the part I found interesting. One, again, you mentioned this hearing on Inspirational Network and stuff. And, of course, people in rural Virginia in the 1930s would probably go to church. Mm-hmm. And she does seem pretty religious, and the grandmother seems pretty insistent on going to church. And a lot of the men seem less... inclined that way.
That's a good point.
And I like that they presented that. I mean, that didn't just make everybody pious, and and he gets mad at her for being pious.
Right. And and when she kind of like has that little moment, they the son asks what what she's doing. I think she's trying to be a good Christian. You
Yeah.
know? And he doesn't really say it like in a patronizing way, but
No.
it's kind of like a matter of fact thing. But it definitely seems like, yeah, like you said, like it's her thing, and he's not quite that, but he supports her in it.
Yeah.
But
And then, they're having the argument, and he thinks prohibition is kind of ridiculous. That,
yeah,
that you can prevent somebody, at least make a law that would prevent you from making things from your own, crops and things that you grew.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like that, and and he doesn't like when she gets this kind of uptight or pious about it, and
right.
He's like, it was funny.
Yeah.
He's not doing, he's doing a job. He's making some money, and
Yeah.
but she's also justified in being upset that he didn't tell her,
Mm-hmm.
and if she doesn't think it's right for him to do, she has a say in that. I think it was sort of like when we talked about Good Times, I was talking about like Esther Roll and John Amos
Mm-hmm.
having a similar kind of argument about a thing like that, and
Yeah.
it's good acting and it's good writing and complicated.
It's a good point. It's a mature conversation that doesn't end in, doesn't have yelling and theatrics, but they clearly are committed to what they're saying, and they both, believe their points, and she is very upset.
Yeah.
But it was nice, and it shows them talking their way through it.
Yeah. And he's charming, and like the boys are listening, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them's like, Dad's charming her, and they're all like, I want to be like him when I grow up.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, and they come to an agreement, I guess, or not. I mean, they get through the tension of it.
Yeah, I guess she already kind of dictated how it was going to be.
That he's not
right?
going to work for them anymore. Yeah.
I mean, they'll come to Thanksgiving.
Right.
And they seem happy. They're okay with that.
Yeah.
They like the invitation.
And if in fact they don't understand that they're making alcohol, then like it's and they seem like a little bit batty anyway.
Yeah.
I could see them being a little like, well, this is weird, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly anyone who would come to someone's parents and offer to adopt them is not totally operating on.
What is John's first response to something like, "We're not giving away any children this year," or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. But and there's another scene where like the whole family's piling in the truck to go to church, and he's like sitting out by the infamous saw.
Oh, John is.
Yeah, and she's like, "You'll feel better if you go to church." And I like that too. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and remember there's the part two where he gets angry and starts kind of like.
Oh yeah, right after that, yeah.
Banging stuff and just clearly upset about that incident.
Right, that he should have fixed it.
Right, and showing some anger there.
Yeah.
So again, another genuine human emotion. How about that?
Yeah. And then John Boy does have the surgery. He comes out of the surgery. He's fine. That was a nice scene where Olivia goes in and wakes him up.
Yeah.
Like a nice mother-son kind of thing. Like he hadn't woken up yet. She just kind of coaxes him out of it.
Right, and the family, like the kids, were even offering. Weren't they essentially saying that they'd be willing to forego Thanksgiving because it wouldn't be the same without John Boy? So it was nice. Like even though they'd shown the kids like bickering and stuff, but clearly they had the affection for each other, and they were all concerned about that, and they made that pretty clear, which is good.
And John Boy's just like, I mean, as soon as he wakes up, he's all about that test.
Yeah, you gotta have that test.
He's like, go see if there's a way I can take that test again. And this registrar lady was nice.
Yeah.
This and that. The doctors just don't want him to strain himself and don't think it's a good idea. And there was also somewhere a scene in there where he's like, has a hospital meal and he's not really eating it.
Yeah.
And he tells the nurse, oh, it's fine. I'm not hungry. And then at the end of the scene, like she's gone and he tells his dad, can you take this away? It's terrible. John walked off camera and he's like, Dad, come here. And a good comic beat.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, the parents and the John Ritter and the teacher all go to this registrar to try to get her to, if there's any way he can take the test later. Turns out there's a deadline because there's a presentation and all of this, and so they agree that he can take it in the hospital, and the teacher will proctor it.
It's very unconventional, I might add.
Very, yes.
But
I'm sure if that like 40-year-old guy with a mustache who was taking the test found out about it,
he
would be
peeved. Outraged. Yeah, I hope that guy passed or got a scholarship, because otherwise, yes.
Of course, Jenny comes and visits, and and he takes a test, and then we see the pageant. Frankly, it's not a very memorable pageant.
There wasn't a lot going on in that, no.
No,
but good for
Mary Ellen.
Mary Ellen, yeah. Is Mary something? I don't want to get her name Good for Mary Ellen for doing her job in the play, I guess.
Yeah, and John Smith for having a good fake goatee.
Yeah.
Or maybe he grew it.
Yeah. That's dedication to the part.
Yeah.
When you're a kid growing a goatee.
Right. Yeah.
More than getting some fancy store-bought wig or whatever.
Right. And that girl gets to play like the bad Indian who like wants to kill them all.
Yeah.
Before Pocahontas steps in.
Probably typecasting there.
Yeah. And even like she delivers her line, and they cut to the audience, and like some of the siblings are like, "Oh, she's the worst."
Yeah. They're holding grudges.
Yeah. Clearly, if we'd seen more episodes, we would know who that girl was.
She seemed like maybe, she might be a regular antagonist.
Yeah. And then the family minus John Boy sits down for Thanksgiving, and it's a big spread and everything, and but they're all down because he's not there.
Yeah. Wait. Should we address the? Did we explain the resolution to the other story?
Oh, the Ben. Yeah. The turkey story. Yeah. No,
I mean,
you
essentially said, Grandpa. He allowed Grandpa to go with him, and Grandpa was trying to help him by doing some pretty wild turkey calls, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right, and he's got that little device.
Yeah.
Wooden device that does.
Yeah, I don't know what you call that thing.
And he had also scouted out the territory before up on Waltons Mountain.
But so really, the important thing was getting the actual kill shot.
Yeah.
But he fails
miserably.
Yeah. He can't do it.
And it's like the only turkey around.
Yeah. Yeah. So they essentially have to go buy a turkey.
Yeah. But then tell everyone he shot it.
Yeah.
So he learns he's got to be patient. If he wants to hunt, he's going to have to be patient.
Yeah.
Again, putting him on that serial killer path.
Exactly. Learn to stalk your prey.
Right.
You got to lay out these things weeks, maybe even months in advance.
Yeah.
So that's how they got their Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah, and he's a good barterer. He and the guy that get the turkey from haggle things down. So he's gonna give him some walnuts and do some work for him or something.
And some marbles or whatever kids trade for stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Piece of string.
Yeah.
And then they got the turkey. I think the hams might have been for Thanksgiving too. It's a huge table.
I do like Thanksgiving ham. I'm all in favor of that.
Right.
Just pointing that out.
Looked like it was going to be a good dinner, and nobody's eating. And
yeah, they're all bummed out.
Didn't really get a sense of what the dessert situation would be, but
no,
if that grandma makes a bad pie, then I'm an apple. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I know that you, sir, are no apple.
Well,
so your point is loud and clear.
Yes. Case closed.
Yeah.
And then what? But then they hear a car. And the Baldwin sisters are there. And it's John Boy and the doctor.
Yeah.
And John Boy's still got a bandage on his head. There's a nice moment where like the littlest girl is like, "Why do you have that funny hat on?" And he like scoops her up and like, "Why do you have that funny hat on?" or something. I liked it because it felt like a real affection. Richard Thomas having real affection for that little girl. And they get to have Thanksgiving together, and then we find out if he got the scholarship.
Yeah.
Which he did, and he screams it to the heavens.
He does.
Yeah, and everyone else is excited.
Yeah, it's a victory for all of them.
Yeah. It's a heck of a Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And hopefully they got to watch the Dallas Cowboys lose after dinner and before he got the letter. Maybe that's why they were all so happy, too.
The Cowboys weren't America's team during the Depression?
No, they weren't existing during the Depression.
No. John Boy probably didn't play football, so he probably avoided some head injuries.
Yeah, where did he get all those head injuries?
In the Depression, that was still in the early days of helmets.
That's right.
Leather caps or something.
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe he did like bare knuckle brawling or something like that, and that's how he got all those head injuries. Like people did in the Depression.
Sure. Make a little money.
Go from city to city, town to town.
Right.
Put on a little show.
Yeah.
Maybe you carry a guy for 10 rounds and then start trading some punches in the 11th.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed this. I'm going to watch some more.
That intrigues me.
Yeah.
It's kind of maybe one of the surprises that we've had since we've doing the podcast.
Yeah.
I can tell that you're into the show, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I enjoyed this episode too.
It had been a long time since I'd seen it, and I do feel like it is one of those, another thing that was a big deal at the time and people have forgotten.
Right. Well,
I remember like Ralph Waite's in that John Sayles movie, Sunshine State. And it was like, I was like, oh, I know. It's the dad from the Waltons, and he's really good as like a grizzled, blind guy in that. Yeah. And of course, Richard Thomas was on The Americans for a few seasons, as like a hard-nosed FBI management type person. It was always nice to see those people. And although I think Richard Thomas probably struggled, getting out of the shadow of John Boy a little bit.
Right.
Battle of the Beyond the Stars. Help. Now, weren't he and John Ritter both in the TV adaptation of It?
I do not know.
I think they might have been.
That's interesting. Little Waltons reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Ritter, of course, went on to 8 Simple Rules. Had a few failed shows along the way.
Problem Child.
Yeah.
Problem Child 2.
Yeah, Skin Deep. Which would not be Waltons approved, I believe.
Yeah, probably not.
No. Well, let me tell you something. I'll say something that I have not revealed, is that years ago, I think when when Inspirations started showing Waltons, or one of them, I flirted with, maybe I might start watching some of these.
Wow.
I flirted with it in a chaste way, mind you.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
In a totally, upright and honorable way.
Because you're a practical adult.
Yes, and I'm, a God-fearing, righteous man.
Right.
As you well know. But something happened and I didn't.
Yeah.
What point was I trying to make?
I don't know.
What was that
that you had curiosity about the show before.
The fact is, and now when I watch it, I'm like, you know what? I spent a lot of time watching 5 seasons worth of 8 is Enough recently, and that is now gone. So maybe I might take on this family drama and put it in the rotation. The Waltons could be my new 8 is Enough, which was interesting because apparently 8 is Enough was the new Waltons.
Yeah.
So we flipped the script.
Yeah. What does flip the script mean? I mean, I know what it means metaphorically, but
like, where did
here's another thing that grinds my gears.
Uh-oh. Here we go, folks.
Does it mean it's just upside down? Does it mean it's backwards?
Yeah.
Like, if you had a script and you flipped it upside down, it would be useless.
True. If you just turned it over, it wouldn't be. You just have blank pages.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if it's double-sided, then you'd read it backwards, which, occasionally that works artistically.
At least something would be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas if it was a blank page, you'd just be sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
So maybe flipping the script is just like embracing the great void. Or it should be. We're all using it wrong. Well, then I don't want to flip the script then. I apologize. I withdraw my
I don't know.
statement. We've not flipped the script. We have upended the natural order of television.
There we go.
Because everything should be watched in its proper order.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm trying to live my goal of watching every TV show from the 70s and 80s before I watch any modern TV. I'm not always...
What about the 90s?
Well, the 90s is a gray area.
Okay.
I allow a few exceptions for that, like 8 Simple Rules.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Right, Hearts of Fire.
Yeah, that one. The classics. Exactly. So, but I think I probably will watch some more of the Waltons.
Now, it seems like one of those shows that has a little bit of continuity. I mean, just based on this, and I know the Jenny character had been around before, but
yeah, she'd been in like one other episode, and so I guess she moved.
Yeah.
She didn't get like a big send off.
Maybe she moved like years before, like they said, childhood sweethearts. So maybe it was like
and
I don't know.
And apparently, did you see that the actress and Richard Thomas were dating in real life?
I saw that, yeah.
And
with
apparently he
mysterious headline. I don't know if you saw that in one of the articles. Sex, drugs, and the Waltons, or sex, drugs, and something.
What?
And it was an article about them.
I hope that third one wasn't the Waltons, because those three things do not go together.
It was about Richard Thomas opening up or something. I don't know.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't check it out yet, but it's on that all about the Waltons.
Okay. Well,
or at least an image of that page is.
We'll get some. We'll put that in the show notes so that everybody can further investigate this.
Right. Were you going to say something?
No.
We were just talking about her. Yeah, some continuity, but I think you could probably also cherry pick episodes that looked interesting and not be lost. I mean,
right.
I wasn't lost really in this.
Right. Yeah.
But
exactly.
I think just the idea, since people it's kids and they're aging, and there's his story of going to college and all that stuff.
I was surprised that the Jenny character didn't make a return because
Yeah,
they seem to build her up so much in this episode, and the two of them look good together.
Right.
That surprised me quite a bit.
So it was just the one before and this one.
As far as I know, yes.
Weird. That is one of the problems with not having continuity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they... It seemed like they'd explained it, though, so
yeah.
maybe we'll have to watch
the
day after Thanksgiving story.
Right, yes.
Where John Boy
right.
explains what happened to Jenny.
Or maybe, yeah. But,
well, the good news is I got a scholarship. The bad news is Jenny just told me she's moving.
Yeah, again.
Yeah. After 1 week back in Virginia.
They found out about California.
Yeah.
They're going to pack up a truck and drive out there.
Right.
Sure, it'll turn out great.
You can... The grapes are, you can just pick them right off the trees, and
That's
you can
right.
stomp in them, and
yep, the lakes are milk. And
yeah, everything's so plentiful.
She doesn't care about Waltons Mountain. She's going to go to Big Rock Candy Mountain.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll work out well for her.
Yeah.
Seems like a good plan.
2 weeks later, Jenny's stepmother wrote me a letter. Jenny had fallen off the truck.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, one could probably watch some of the episodes and not necessarily watch all of it.
Yeah, certainly not some of those later years. If they had, I don't know, Ralph Weightless episodes, I don't know if I could handle those. It might be a little too weightless, if you know what I mean.
Ralph Weightless was another one of John Boy's comic strip characters. This is a little Lotta ripoff. Ralph Weightless.
Or he was the Buck Rogers, the sci-fi strip.
Yes.
Yeah, I might be able to handle No Richard Thomas.
Yeah.
Which seems weird that the show was built around him through his eyes, and yet he leaves and they
I know.
But you say they eventually brought the character back.
Right, yeah.
You know what? I am going to watch that.
I'm
I've got
curious.
morbid curiosity for that.
And I feel bad, you got to feel bad for that actor, who might be an okay actor. But,
yeah. Did he at least have a birthmark?
I don't think so, no.
Oh.
You know what did? I'm glad you said that. The Mego action doll.
Really? It
Yes.
actually had the birthmark?
Yes.
That's great. The trademark.
They had, so they had John Boy, they had John, they had Olivia.
Wow.
They had Mary Ellen, and they had in a 2-pack the grandparents.
Oh, wow.
And a house. And these are like the full size, the doll size ones, not like those MASH action figures.
Wow. I had no idea about this
Yeah.
whole line. You had a whole Waltons thing, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they All About the Waltons has a whole merchandise section.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that's
I'll be checking that out.
games and lunchboxes and music albums. Because I think at some point some of the characters became country singers.
Oh boy.
Which
Oh boy.
it fits the times and the location, but
Well,
yeah,
that is a sign that a show has gone on a little too long.
sheet music,
I'm sure there was at least one talent show episode.
paper dolls, all sorts of Viewmaster, of course.
Seem appropriate for a family show that they
Yeah.
do some of the toys and merchandise. But yeah, I didn't know.
Look, there's the grandparents.
Oh, wow.
You got a rocking
Don't they
chair.
look a sight?
John Boy. Oh, I guess they're all 2-packs because John Boy and Mary Ellen,
Okay,
Grandpa and Grandma,
makes sense.
and Mom and Pop,
Nice.
and the house.
Wow, that house looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, they all are together, and you can
Beautiful.
kind of see. This is fascinating, of course, for the
Yes,
listeners.
Oh yeah, folks, the birthmark is there, clear as day.
Yeah.
And a remarkable likeness. It actually looks kind of like Mr. Bill with a birthmark.
Yeah, these likenesses aren't. The Ralph Waite one is kind of. It's a little. His head seems a little small.
It does. I'm trying to read that. That's rather inscrutable expression on his face, is it not?
Yes.
I don't know if he's approving or disapproving or.
But that's pretty cool.
Yeah. They should have like a little lumber play set so you can recreate the injury scene and do your own head injuries.
The play set section, you see there's a house and a truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
And then there's the Wizard of Oz stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome to Waltons Mountain. I guess that was the only play set. And there is a commercial for the YouTube playlist.
Oh yes, we'll definitely add that.
Walton's Country Home TV ad.
Okay, so you can see this for yourselves.
Ooh, it has a jingle. Awesome. Yeah, there's a truck. Oh, there's country store. Yeah, we didn't get to see the country store guy. He might not have been on the show yet.
Actually, I think I'd seen the pilot.
Uh-huh.
I did watch the pilot.
The one with the deaf girl.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he was
in that.
Yeah. I like that guy.
They should have had an action figure of him.
Yeah, some other house place that just has cardboard figures. Not as cool.
No, not as good. But well, the Waltons made some merchandising money. They're a merch juggernaut in the 1970s.
That's how they kept going during the Depression.
Yeah, through merch.
Merch, yeah. Once the boys formed their jug band, they had a merch table.
Yeah.
They were the first band to call it a merch table.
Yeah, they revolutionized it.
Hey, we got a merch table back there if you want to.
Granny was always busy, sewing merch items.
Right. Yeah. We got new flannel shirts.
Yeah. And Grandpa would just sit back with a smile. And, back in my day, they didn't call it merch. They just call it stuff what you wanted to buy. So the whole thing became a little much for him, but he indulged it.
And, any band that's selling, smoked ham on their merch table,
that's something.
They've got a leg up, especially during the Depression.
Yeah.
You pay your 2 bits to get in, and your 3 bits to get a ham.
And you feel like you almost come out ahead on the deal.
Right, yeah.
You get some entertainment and
you
get dinner.
Spend 25 bits on that T-shirt.
But, you can wrap the ham in the T-shirt on the way home.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So it kind of has dual purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe I will watch some of these later season episodes of The Waltons. I'm curious to see some of how this played out now.
Yeah.
Well, what else can we say about The Waltons? I think we were both impressed by it, a little surprisingly impressed. It's quality entertainment.
Yeah.
Good family show.
Yep. Gets
the BOTNS seal of approval.
I think so.
As well as a Peabody.
Right.
Whichever is more important.
Yeah.
And we may be watching more of The Waltons.
Yeah. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good Thanksgiving. Save a piece of pie for someone. Be thankful. Good night, Rick.
Good night, Mike.
Good night, listeners.
This episode brought to you by Grandma Walton's Relish. Tasted and approved by the whole Walton clan for just the right amount of dill. This episode also brought to you by The Recipe. That's coffee. This episode also brought to you by family. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.